let's talk about that Cowboys game. I mean,
that was a game?
I actually picked the Saints. I think the spread was like 6.5, and I was like, the Saints, I thought they could come in there and play close and possibly win. I wasn't expecting the blowout that it turned into.
No, but listen. First of all, I think there's a. Let me start by saying something we did not address the first hour, and I think everybody should be a bit measured, right? This is week 2. Most teams don't play in the preseason. Most teams, guys are just getting acclimated. Guys are just getting some reps in. So the first few weeks, really, you kind of want to take a break. And this is why a lot of people are still big on the Cincinnati Bengals or big on some other teams who kind of last few years, as long as they're healthy, have started slowly and progressed into the season. And so losing to the Saints would not be that big of a deal. Look, Derek Carr's playing well. The offense is coming back. Alvin Kamara looks great. They're moving the ball very well. Offensive line looks great. So you can say, if I would have told you Dallas would either barely beat the Saints or lose, it's how you lose, right? It's that somebody can't come in here and Thanos you.
44-19 is a butt whooping.
44-19 with here's the key part too, Rob. No fluky plays. That's the part, right? Because we see sometimes a guy hits the back of his helmet, goes in the air, interceptions, return, pick six, happens once or twice, and the fluky game. No, they got flat out absolutely dominated, and that's what makes this alarming if you're a Dallas Cowboys fan, because as Newey Scruggs, who if you missed that part, he's out in Dallas. He is with NBC there, sports broadcaster there. He brought up a great point in that they're only beating up on the teams that are bad or mid. They're not beating up on the playoff teams, right? They got Jordan Love. Jordan Love got a bunch of money because of them.
But that was always the argument about paying Dak, was that Dak's record isn't good against the good teams, and he destroys and puts up huge numbers. Like, he had a great year last year putting up big numbers, but they don't come against the teams you really want. And now when you couple this, so if you're Jerry Jones, they had a 16-game home winning streak during the regular season. Mm-hmm. So they lose in the playoffs 48-32 in the wild card, like a shocker. They lose that game. And then you come home after winning in Cleveland, right? And you give up 44 points. I mean, 48 and 42 on your last 2 home games after you had a 16-game winning streak?
I think what's scary too, Rob, is if you're a Cowboys, if you're on the defensive side of the ball or a fan of the team, is what also makes it disturbing is the fact that the Saints went down in so many different types of drives. Like, oh, you want a shorter drive? Bet. You want an 80? Here's another 80. You want a 69 drive? You want to, they just went, I think it was 6 straight drives scoring. And that's humiliating, again, because they were able to do it in a multitude of ways against the Cowboys. They ran the ball. They passed the ball.
432 yards.
That is ridiculous. And then if you take away the long pass to CeeDee Lamb, where it was more him, right? Nice pass.
But it was a miscommunication with the two DBs.
They kind of ran into each other, didn't tackle. Yeah. You take away that big play, what did the Cowboys do? Nothing. You didn't stop them. It wasn't like it was a shootout, right? They lost 36-44. Man, that was a great game. It was a shootout. Something like the Bills in Kansas City some years back, or the Kansas City Chiefs and the Rams a few years back. We're like, man, that was a shootout. This was not the case. They just got ran over on both sides. And the big uglies, as they say, on either side did not come to play for Dallas. And that's also disappointing. And you can tell Dallas was feeling themselves from week 1. Dallas was saying, oh, this is what we do. Here we come, 12-5 again, baby. This is automatic. Buck, put it in, pencil it in, pen it in. Matter of fact, go get a Bic. Write in 12-5. This is what we do. And they forgot you got to come and play.
And where are you on the Micah Parsons? Chris and I had talked about this for a long time. About the podcast, like this guy's a good young player. Put the podcast down. Can you focus in just? I don't have an issue in the off season, or even Draymond Green. I had issues with it having a podcast during the playoffs. Where you're supposed to be playing and locked in and not trying to charge up the other team and say all these defamatory stuff on podcasts. Micah Parsons, I was trying to rename his podcast to Turn Off His Micah is what I want to call a podcast. But he's supposed to be this great defensive player, and their defense has been dog-doo, especially the last two home games. I mean, this is a problem for the Cowboys.
It is. And I'll say this. First of all, the toothpaste is out of the tube. It ain't going back, right? Everybody feels entitled now. We have millions of people who have podcasts. I'm talking average everyday folks, the export, and you know this, how many athletes think, I know the game, I can have a podcast, right? Oh, I'm funny, I can have a podcast. All right, well, good luck. Everybody thinks they can have a podcast, from the two ladies who love to talk about doing nails to anything. Everybody has one. So the toothpaste is out the tube. We ain't going back. Every athlete almost feels as if, why don't I have a podcast? Like, I didn't know people were tuning in to the Trae Young podcast. Like, who was like, you know who needs a podcast? Trae Young needs a podcast.
No, but if I'm a team, I'd be like, dude,
but
no.
you can't. But see, this is
can't means unable to. What do you mean I can't?
Because what are you going to say? Like,
no.
They're contractually is going to say, I can't jump out of a plane, right? I can't bungee jump. I can't do this.
You can't have a podcast during the season. How's that? You can't have a podcast during the season. In the off season, do whatever you want.
Because you know what that sounds like? That sounds like stick to sports.
No, it ain't about stick to sports.
Just do this. Do what I'm paying you to do.
No, it's about focusing in on the job at hand. I don't want you to do a million things when you're playing. Sports is a short shelf life. You don't get to play it for 40 years unless you're LeBron.
I'm not disagreeing.
You know what I
you.
mean? Like so can you focus in on these 8 or 10 years that you're playing professional sports? I'm paying you a lot of money, and if you want to get in the podcast business later and you want to do all that, Micah Parsons is all the stuff, but there are no results. He's the leader of this defense. He's supposed to. They were mentioning him with Lawrence Taylor.
Well, I mean, I'm not going to sit up here and act like Micah hasn't been getting busy. Excuse me. I'm not going to act like he has not been dominating for the most part. He can't lead the defense. He's not. There's one dude and 10 other players on the defense, so he can't do it all, right?
I get that.
But so he's done his part. But I won't disagree with you on the fact that, look, the attention that you're giving to a podcast, because you look. You know what it entails, right? They can say, oh, it doesn't take away, it's in my off time. But you got to talk to producers. You got to talk to guests. You got to plan. You might want to research.
You also could rile up.
You can rile up the
opponent.
Yeah. You can say some other stuff. You might even just say too much about you. Yeah, man, we ain't like the way we got ran over last week, so we're going to make an emphasis to load the box a little bit. You might say too much about what you're going to do. I agree with you. However, I'm living in 2024, brother, and the toothpaste, it ain't going back up in there. People are absolutely feeling like this is what I'm supposed to do. Calling their agents, can I get me a show? Can Fox Sports Radio get me a show? Can I get a podcast? Can iHeart give me a podcast? You're not doing anything. If you're not in their minds, Rob, if I'm not attending the white party, if I don't have a podcast, if I don't have cool fashion, if I'm not endorsing some brands, I'm not doing anything. Gone are the days of, the Tim Duncans, if you will. I just want to come play, shut up, work, play, and
wear my
here.
flip-flop.
Yeah, wear my
win 5 championships.
And shop at Ross.
That's right. There's nothing wrong with that. All right,
I know. I see the bag over there.